Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm excited. Thank you all for being here. And as we're waiting to get started, would love to hear from you. If you can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. Um, I guess, how has the day been going for you all so far? How has the international conference on stigma been going for you? So you can type in the chat or unmute yourself, but would love to hear, get some voices in the room just to see how are things going. How was today? Since today was the kickoff, how did it go?
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Yes.
So I was not prepared for today at all. I thought I was coming to gather some tools to put in my toolbox to help my patients with when it came to stigma, but I found out how many stigmas I face, how
Mm.
many stigmas I face advocating for my patients today. um, I was in tears from the very first faith-based session. I
Mm.
feel like I was meant to be here.
Mm. Mm. Amazing. Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much. Was that Nurse Nita? Was that you sharing?
Yeah, so look, on my phone is Nurse Nada because that's my personal Zoom account, but at work it's Renata Haley. So when I get back home,
Okay.
you'll see my real name, my screen come up through my work email. But I couldn't let go. I was like, I got to take this on the road to go get my baby. I got to keep hearing.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for that. Yes, thanks for that. Awesome. So we're getting some insight in the chat and it's saying great, amazing, great day, going great. Um School, okay, great. School of Social Work at Howard. The kickoff was fantastic. It's been good, very educational and enlightening. Had an amazing session. Awesome day. Great. Enjoyed everything. Awesome day. Excellent. Excellent. Great. Well, I'm so glad to hear that and glad to keep the momentum going. And this will also hopefully be equally as great as well. This is going to be a very interactive session. So if you are able, have a notebook and pen handy because we'll be doing some journaling. This is also a group discussion. We'll be doing some group discussion. We'll also be doing some case studies and going into breakout rooms and really diving deep into this as well. So so glad that you guys have had a great day and you're here and don't want to miss a thing. So that's a beautiful thing. Well, with that, I am going to introduce myself. My name is Chantel Fitzgerald. I am the founder of Mindset Strategies. We are a leadership development firm focused on mindfulness, emotional intelligence, leadership development, executive coaching, preventing burnout, and really helping people be more effective in their roles. And I participated in this last year as a speaker where I did a session on self compassion. And I'm grateful to Howard University for bringing me back and doing a session on breaking barriers and building bridges and the role of cultural humility in ending stigma. So, super excited about today. And I also want to say that my sister is a graduate of Howard University. So, go HU for those out there. So, really excited and grateful to be here. So, thanks for being here, everyone. So, with that, I always like to start off my sessions because I am a mindfulness practitioner and trainer. I always like to begin our sessions with a grounding practice and a grounding exercise. So, if you are willing, if you are able, And I feel free to find a comfortable and yet alert position. So that's usually with your feet on the floor, your hands in your lap, your back is straight, your head's in alignment with your spine. You can close your eyes or you can keep them open and just lower your gaze, however you feel most comfortable. And let's begin by just feeling the weight of our bodies in our chair. And by feeling the weight of our bodies in our chair, just helps to ground ourselves into this moment and being here right now. Another way to ground ourselves is to just notice our hands and where our hands are located, not trying to do anything differently, but just noticing our hands, where they are, perhaps resting on our lap, our fingers intertwined or not, but just noticing our hands and where they're placed as a way to ground ourselves into this moment. Now see if you can locate your breath. How do you know you are breathing in this moment? See if you can bring your attention to one inhale and one exhale. Now see if you can bring your attention to just a few cycles of your breathing, from the inhale to the exhale. Now feel free to set your intention. What is your intention for being here tonight? Or how would you like to show up in our call together? So feel free to set your intention now. And with that, let's take a deep breath in and a slow exhale out. And in a moment, I'll ring the bell and see if you can just listen to the bell for as long as you can until you can no longer hear it. And then when you can no longer hear it, feel free to open your eyes and bring your attention back to the room. All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Feel free to type in the chat. How are you feeling now after that meditation or this minute to arrive? I like to call it a minute to arrive, although it's a little bit more than just a minute. It's probably about 3 minutes. But yeah, feel free to type in the chat. How are you feeling in this moment after that? Relaxed and receptive. Awesome. Thank you for that. Relaxed and recharged. Great. Thanks, Dr. Brandy. Sleepy. I need to relax. Grounded. Excellent. Calm. Excellent. Excellent. Well, this is tool number one that we'll be learning tonight is a minute to arrive. And it's always great to do something like this because you're helping you enter into a space of feeling grounded, feeling calm, feeling rejuvenated. And it's always a good place to begin when we are feeling grounded, when we're feeling calm, when we're feeling rejuvenated, even a little sleepy. That's okay too. It's just our body telling us that we are tired. Maybe we've been doing a lot. Um, and need to rest. So excellent reset. Great. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And loving your engagement. Keep it coming because this is an engaging night, an engaging session for tonight. All right. So you are all in the right place. Perhaps you saw this flyer. Thank you for attending our session tonight. And we are going to rock and roll. So we already did our minute to arrive grounding practice. And now would love for you all, if you are able, you can feel free to either come off of mute, or you can type it in the chat, but just share a little bit. Would love to do some introductions. Just share your name, perhaps your specialty, maybe meaning like what you specialize in, what you work, and then maybe one or two words of how you are arriving in this session. We kind of talked a little bit about that already, that you've had a great session, but one or two words of a check-in. So you can either type in the chat or you can come off of mute and share. Would love to hear from you. Awesome. So we have Sohil Reina, physician and teacher. Awesome. Thank you. And what's your one word? Social work faculty, arriving to learn. Excellent. Behavioral health service evaluation. Awesome. From Seattle, Washington. Amazing. Thank you for being here, Felix. Great. Manager, eager and focused. Great. Excellent. Anyone else want to check in? Lizzie, peer advocate from Long, South Carolina. Great. Excellent. Gloria Bell, chair of Howard University. Wonderful. Okay. Hospital Patient and Family Advisory Council. Great. Curious and attentive. Thank you. Eager to learn more skills to humble myself while serving others. Thank you. Jesse, STI prevention, feeling grateful for all the participants today, ready to learn more. Excellent. Great. Florence, social worker, eager to learn. Excellent. Noru, non-medical case manager, ready to learn. Excellent. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Yes, keep them coming. Awesome. We got Sean from Fort Lauderdale, peer advocate insurance. Wonderful. Insurance broker risk, 36 years lived experience. Great. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Wonderful. It's always so great to hear from you all and to hear who's in the room, to better understand and be able to support you all. So fantastic. Welcome, everyone. All right, with that, let's get into it. We are going to just do some quick community agreements. We are going to get into what is cultural humility, or how do you define cultural humility for yourself, and what is cultural competency, and what is the difference between these. We'll get into defining stigma and the different types of stigma, and the importance and the research behind cultural humility and helping to in some ways end stigma, or working on dismantling that. Then we're going to get into some case studies. we'll do some journaling exercises, and then we will close out. So that is where we're going for tonight. This is our roadmap. And so, with that, let's jump in, let's dive in and get started. It's always great when we are in community to kick off with some community agreements. So, just so that we all feel safe in our space tonight, we support and encourage each other. And it's important to have community agreements and also consider doing this when you go back to your teams, when you go back to leading in your realm of work, to consider starting, and maybe you already do, to have community agreements with the people that you serve with, just so that we're all on the same page. We can hold each other accountable, and we have meaningful values to reconnect to. So here are some examples of some community agreements, and then you all can create your own as a collective. And some of these community agreements can look like take space and make space, meaning that if you tend to share a lot, make space for other people to add their voices to the room. Or if you are somebody who tends to be maybe more on the quieter or shyer side, we would encourage you to take space and speak up and share your perspective and share your thoughts and experiences. So this is an example of what a community agreement would look like. If this is something that we choose to add. Taking care of yourself, whatever that means to you. And then, of course, in some ways, the Vegas rule, confidentiality, are some things as well. So with that, would love to hear from you all in terms of what community agreements would you like to set for our time and session together tonight. So you can either put it in the chat, you can come off of mute and share, but would love to hear what's important to you and our time together, and really moving forward potentially for this entire conference. What is important to ground ourselves in when it comes to community agreements as we work and learn together with each other. Great. I am going to write this down. Respect opinions. In fact, I think many of you guys are putting it all in the chat. Okay, great. Respecting other opinions, leading with empathy and understanding, respectful listening, listen carefully, ask questions. Great. Anything else we want to add when it comes to community agreements? Being non-judgmental, I statements. Great. Creating a safe space. Yes. Anything else? Okay. So community agreements are things that we can continue to use, and it's an ongoing document, if we will. So if there are things that come up, we can always add to our community agreements as well. If there's anything that comes up, I always like to add, especially when we are doing things virtually, is grace with technology. There's always sometimes a blip or a tricky situation that happens in the moment. So I always like to add grace to technology moments if we come across any, because we just never know when technology fails us in the moment. And I feel like we've all experienced those moments of when technology doesn't work for us in a critical moment. So yes, having grace with technology. And I said, oh, and I like grace, a new value. Great. Excellent. Yes. So having grace. Okay. Well, with that, let's jump in to what is cultural humility? So again, feel free to type in the chat, unmute yourself. Would love to get some voices in the room. How do you all define cultural humility? When you think about that word, what does that mean to you? Cultural humility. What does that mean? Being humble, open to other cultures. Yes. Thank you. Kudor, not judging. Great. Excellent. What else? Kindness with works. Okay. Kindness with works. De-empowering oneself. Great. Learning and look for strengths. Learning and look for strengths. Understanding differences. Seeing the value in communal philosophies I am unfamiliar with. Yes. Reflection. Sensitivity to others' culture and values. Yes. Yes. Respect. Being open-minded. Yeah. Great. Any other words come to mind? Being mindful, granting self grace. Yes. I'm curious about Lizzie. You mentioned kindness with works, or did you mean kindness with work? I was just curious. Can you share a little bit more of what you meant by that?
Kindness with works with means showing that solidarity, showing I don't want to say humility again, that kindness with the work that goes along with what we need to put in to accomplish that goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. Thank you for sharing and explaining more of that. Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. No culture is superior or inferior relative to other cultures. Yes. Yes, great. Affirmation, culturally intelligent. Ooh, how do I pronounce your name? Is it Kadori or Kador? Snell?
Qdor, yes, Qdor
Tudor.
Snell.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
culturally
right.
intelligent. Yes, say more about that.
Yes, I always, and I like the fact that you were going to make the distinctions between being culturally competent, because I don't think one can be completely competent in another's culture. So I much rather prefer the term of being culturally sensitive or
Mhm,
culturally intelligent. Just learn, be
mhm,
open from what you can learn and not be. I take students to South Africa on a trip. And I always tell them, pardon this, I'm also American, but I also tell them, don't be an ugly American
mhm,
thinking you know everything to tell
mhm,
folks how they should live and what they should do when we don't even get it right here. So just be open to
mhm,
learn and to be respectful and don't judge.
mhm, mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Yes.
Yes, well said. Thank you. That was wonderful. Yes, exactly. And we're going to dive deeper into that, Kyodor, about the difference between cultural humility and cultural competence, and what is the difference, and why they both matter, but why one is also more of a lifelong journey as well. In some ways, both of them could be too. Great, excellent. So let's get into the definition of cultural humility, and then we're going to get into the definition of what cultural competence is as well. And so with that, um, let me share my screen so you guys can see. So the definition, you all pretty much nailed it in terms of what you shared and what your thoughts were when it comes to cultural humility. And it's really, it's an approach to understanding and respecting other cultures and identities of individuals and communities. It really focuses on this idea and this commitment of lifelong learning, right? We're never going to know everything about somebody's culture, or somebody's background, or other cultures. So it's this commitment that we are constantly learning and will sometimes have to relearn, unlearn. But it's this commitment of knowing that you don't know it all, you will never know it all, and that you will humble yourself to learn and also self evaluate yourself to recognize, when am I going wrong here? Or when am I putting my assumptions or my bias in place here? And so it's really about that lifelong commitment. And then it also encourages us to recognize our own biases, our own power dynamics. I love what you had mentioned there about Kyodor, about that American that happens to know it all. We need to be, that when we travel to different countries and perhaps get a different reaction from the locals in a different country based on how we maybe are coming off to other people, as well. So it really helps us to recognize our own biases. It helps us to recognize potentially our own power dynamics, and the limitations of actually cultural knowledge, of actually knowing different cultures. But being able to continuously have an open mind, having respectful relationships to really better understand others and their backgrounds, as well. So now let's look at what is cultural competence. So if cultural humility is being open-minded, and it's about lifelong learning, and it's about recognizing our own personal biases and power dynamics, what is cultural competence? So I would love to hear from all of you, again, in the chat or unmuting yourself. How would you define cultural competence? What's the difference?
I can give an example,
Great. Yeah, please.
and this is probably, you know, comparing them to extremes, but a culturally competent person has PhD in cultural competence, and he says, "Oh, I have a PhD in cultural competence. I spent 6 years in Middle East. I know all about Palestinians.
Mm.
I know what they like."
Mhm.
Personal cultural humility, meaning, I lived in Middle East for 6 years. I've been, in school and I teach forever. But, I more and more feel I know nothing about Palestinians.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. That is an absolute spot on example. How do I pronounce your name?
Sohail?
Sohail. That's what I thought. Okay, Sohail. So that's a perfect example, Sohail. Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly right. A great example of, yeah. I know the Middle East. I know Palestinians. I have a PhD in this. And yes, cultural competence is knowledge. That's exactly right. Sean writes in the chat, knowing versus applying what you know. Patricia says, um, knowing specific cultural mistakes not to make. Right, right. Akudora says, or arrogance. It could be. It could certainly come off as arrogant, depending on how the person shows up. But yes, cultural competence is more around knowledge. Like, oh, I know it all. Like, I know everything that there is to know, about this particular culture. And so therefore, and then what Sohail said about, cultural humility is like, well, actually, I might not know everything there is to know about Palestinians. There's more things that I could be learning, and that would be more cultural humility, or arrogance when compared to one's own culture. Yes, yeah, that's also very true. So let's look at this, and let's see how cultural competence is defined. But that you definitely hit the nail on the head as perfect examples, is that cultural competence is the ability to understand and be able to interact effectively with others from different cultures by perhaps, representing or respecting their values, respecting their beliefs, understanding their norms and their culture. It also involves your own personal self-awareness of other cultures and skills to adapt to behaviors and different practices. So what does this really look like, when we look at this? So cultural competence is, first of all, this awareness. It's awareness of one's own cultural and worldview. So your own personal, worldview of where you're coming from. And of course, if you're an American and born and raised in the US, you have, an awareness of your own personal culture and a bias potentially because we are born and raised in this particular country. But when we go, for example, if we were to travel abroad, and or we don't even need to travel abroad, we can be right here in the United States and visit somebody's home or religious space, that is a different culture from your own. And are you open? And it's this attitude. Part of cultural competence is an attitude of being open and accepting, and an attitude towards cultural differences. But we also talked about, this knowledge, understanding the different cultural practices, and then this cross-cultural communication skills. And I really like to, a good example that I have in terms of cultural competence, or when I think about this, is when I had studied abroad, back in my college years. And I remember, when I studied abroad, and this happened to be in France, and it's interesting because when I was in school, we were working, you're in school all day, and I was thinking, oh, well, maybe on my lunch break, I can go to the post office and mail some things and run some errands. But interestingly enough, at noon, this particular area of France where I was at, it was closed. Everything was closed between 12 and 2 o'clock. So I wanted to run errands, busy American as I am, oh, let me get things done during my lunch break. Let me go here. I got to go to the post office. I got to go to, this store. I got to go to that store. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be efficient with my time and go on my lunch break. Well, everything is shut down from 12 to 2. They have their siesta, the French version, because I know the Spanish do that too, and probably other parts of the world. And so I had to adapt. I had to learn. I had to understand, and accept that there's no running errands on your lunch break because everybody is resting and everything is shut down. So that was a cultural knowledge for me to better understand, that this is how things work in this country. And so therefore I have to adapt, right? And so it's that knowledge of understanding, like, this is how this culture works, and recognizing and understanding that. But also knowing when it comes to cultural humility is that we don't actually know it all, as well. So, with that, we're going to go back to here's the three main pillars of cultural humility. One is this commitment to lifelong learning and reflection on ourselves. And also I in that moment I also had to be humble that this is not America where everything is open 24/7 and you can do anything you want at any time of day pretty much. And you have to respect that, but also learning and being open to other cultures. And you know what, hey, let me rest during the hours of 12 and 2 as well. So assimilate to that. Recognizing your own power and privilege, as well as institutional accountability, or like is our organizations, are the places that we work, do we practice cultural humility in our workplaces when we are dealing with patients or dealing with clients or dealing with other people that we serve? How is our structural systems set up to be more culturally humble in a lot of ways as well? So, with that, I would love to hear from all of you which pillar, when it comes to cultural humility and recognizing that we don't know it all, recognizing that there's still more to learn, which pillar feels the most challenging to overcome?
I think power structure, because the situations where I work in are either my patients or students. So there's a big power gradient there. So for people to open up to me as patients, families to open up, or for the students to really share with me what they don't know, I need to find ways to de-empower myself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not an easy job. I think I learned to, sit at the same level or bring myself even lower, to them in physical space. And that helps. Watching my language, avoiding some things, that makes a difference. Being more silent, being more appreciative of them being there, affirmation, more affirmation, saying positive words. Certainly knowing them for a long time helps,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one of the most challenging thing where people can really feel I can say, "Oh, me too," and they'll open up
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we open up when somebody in front of us say, "Oh, me too. I feel that way too."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. Love that. And I feel like you're speaking to having empathy, actually, and being able to be in the shoes of your patients. And when you can relate to them on this empathetic level, it helps to break down that power dynamic, as well. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I also like what you said about the importance of being intentional, is what I also heard from you as well, is being intentional with your patients, kind of getting to their level, understanding what they're going through, and meeting them where they are. So, really powerful and a really beautiful way of showing and practicing cultural humility there. Yeah, amazing. What else? What else? Um, which pillar feels the most challenging for all of you? Okay, I'm starting to look at the chat now. Felix says power and privilege. Lifelong learning, always to be eager and open and receptive. Thank you. Institutional accountability. Yeah, Carol, do you want to say more around institutional accountability and why you feel that feels the most challenging?
Because sometimes that's not something that you have any control over. Like in terms of, I could certainly be open to the lifelong learning, but if I'm working in an institution that doesn't maybe recognize certain things, then sometimes that in and of itself can be challenging to get them to recognize the value of the lifelong learning of that's required for us to understand each other better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Gloria asks, what is institutional accountability? So basically, it's the systems in which you work to be able to hold cultural humility as a value and be able to show accountability in that. So, for example, if from a systems perspective, for example, if there's like a nonprofit organization that specifically works in a, a special field of cancer, for example, and the system is is set up in a way that doesn't honor the humility and understanding of each patient, right? And so therefore the structures and systems of the organization isn't practicing cultural humility. They're not practicing a lifelong learning of getting to understand and know, and there isn't accountability in that, meaning that employees cannot don't have to practice cultural humility, and there's no accountability, there's no repercussions, there's no things to hold them accountable to that. So what are the systems inside organizations that can help support them? So yeah. um, Carol, I think the group is asking for more examples of your experience when it comes to, or just your perspective when it comes to institutional accountability, if you're willing to share.
But I think you just explained it a little bit more than I did in terms of there are things that, you look at systems and there are maybe institutional guidelines and about certain things that you might not have any control over because it's systemic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so certainly your goal could be and can be to help the institution understand the need to change that so that we have so that so that folks who work there and clients and patients and whomever can certainly feel that the institution is cares about them and is responsive to their needs. And sometimes that takes time. You as an I as an individual can certainly make the commitment to lifelong learning about my clients and the community that I live in, my patients, but sometimes that comes in conflict with if the institutional policies are not in line with that, sometimes that can be a bit challenging,
Mm-hmm.
much more so, because we don't have I don't like to say you don't have any control, but that's something that requires more time
Mm-hmm.
and commitment to do versus your individual commitment to lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And in some ways, I mean, if we want to extrapolate it to just kind of what's happening in the world, if we could all, the systems of the world in some ways, right? We're in war in some parts of the world, and we're in protest in other parts of the world. And if we could infuse a system of cultural humility and better understand and have this commitment to lifelong learning and open and curiosity and understanding that my own power dynamics and being able to humble myself to better understand another person's point of view, wouldn't that be an amazing place if we could do that? But as
I
Carol
don't know
mentioned,
if
yeah.
this might help. For example, just an example in terms of in a clinic, and there's a policy that maybe um, let's see, the clinic is open a certain time of the day, but
Hmm.
then there are folks who work and might not be able to to come to receive whatever care or services that they need during those times. So we recognize that, and we would certainly like to be able to do something to help to help the community. So it requires us more time to work with the institution
Hmm.
to get them to change their policies. For example, a clinic that I worked in didn't recognize, like some of the staff would complain about the number of like family members that would show up with maybe a client, not recognizing that in their culture the family, they are there to support that person. So
Hmm.
that they have policies where restrict the number of people who are in the waiting room, then that can certainly have an impact on that person's ability to access services.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can recognize that cultural norm, but the institution then requires more time and don't really feel accountable to be responsive to the community. I don't
Yeah.
know if that helps, but
No, that helps tremendously, and I think that's a really great example of exactly, an institutional accountability in terms of how can we be more culturally um, infuse more cultural humility to be working with our patients. And also, another idea is maybe for single moms, and to get the treatment that they need. The institution doesn't provide, babysitting services or child care services so that the mom can get the needs that,
exactly.
the
Yeah.
things that she might need, health wise or mental health wise, and the system is just not set up to support single moms, that need support, to help them get support. So that's kind of where we're going when it comes to institutional accountability. And those are the different pillars, in that as well. So thank you for that great example, Carol. And hopefully that's more clear, Gloria, for you as well. Yeah, excellent. Any other thoughts when it comes to these three pillars of lifelong learning, recognizing our power and privilege, that may feel challenging? Okay, so now we're in the area of defining stigma. And we are at the international conference around stigma. And so, what is stigma? Um, and so, that's the mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. And so, you guys have all been in sessions already around stigma. And I also, and it was interesting that somebody commented earlier that they didn't realize all of these different types of stigmas. And yes, there are so many, and these are just a few different types of stigmas when it comes to health and racial stigma, to sexual orientation, to mental health, to ability, or having, disability, to ability, and different abilities that we may have. And so we're all um, kind of swimming in these different types of stigmas, and how oftentimes when it comes to practicing cultural humility, is oftentimes it's important to understand the importance of intersectional cultural humility as well. That there are, when we were talking about cultural humility, we were talking about, in some ways, perhaps maybe you know, a siloed space, but recognizing that when we are practicing cultural humility, it's an intersectionality of a lot of different things. So when we're working with patients or we're working with clients, recognizing that there are so many different stigmas that could be attached to this one person, who may identify with a lot of these different stigmas. And so, how do we recognize that when working with patients, working with clients, that they are coming to you for support, for guidance, for health reasons? And can we recognize that there may be a lot of intersectionality when it comes to working with individuals from, you know, that represent a lot of different intersectionalities, when they are coming to you for support. And so, as practitioners, as healthcare providers, as leaders in our work, how do we become more intentional, and recognizing the intersectionality of individuals, but how we also connect, when we are working with them, this cultural humility and recognizing that we don't know everything, and the way that cultural humility is going, and from the research, it's really interconnecting on and weaving in all of these intersectional identities, that people bring to us with our work, as well. So let me pause there and see what questions, comments, reactions, um, from intersectional cultural humility. Okay. So, with that, I would love for you to do a quick journaling exercise, and I will give you all maybe about 5 minutes or so, or maybe a little longer, um, to journal about the following prompts. When you think about your work and your leadership and the work that you do, what power and privilege do you hold? Where do you have influence? And where do you experience marginalization, in your work? So, feel free to break out a pen and paper. I'll give you about 5 minutes, and I will ring the bell when 5 minutes is up, so that we'll move on to the next exercise. But go ahead and journal about this for a few moments. I have about 1 more minute left. All right, and that is time. So, with that, would love to hear from all of you what came up. So, Hill, it looks like you were ready to chat.
I want to, but I think I should give somebody else a chance. Giving space is more important than me working my mouth. So I'll hold my.
Okay, all right. Does anybody else take space and make space? Okay, thank you for that. Yes. But we'll come back to you, Sahil, if we don't have anybody else that wants to share. But anybody who has not had a chance to share or bring their voice into the room or bring their notes to the chat, would you like to share what came up? In and through my academic qualifications, from teaching students and as a mentor, as a person of color, experience marginalization or social work is undervalued and not recognized. I yield my space. Awesome. Cynthia, yes. Thank you for raising your hand. Please.
Okay, I chose the first one. Um, what power and privilege do you feel you hold? And I said when I have the knowledge and I'm able to share the knowledge that I have with others.
Mm-hmm. 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 Great, great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So when you have the knowledge and you're able to share with others, recognizing your own power and privilege, absolutely, and also how you can influence in that way as well. Great, thank you for sharing. Anyone else? All right, so Hill, what were you going to share?
Well, this is an area very close to me, so I've had a chance to reflect on this even before this session. So I'm not an expert, and that's why I'm here to learn. So, but I'll share what I'm a physician, so I have a lot of power over patients, what goes into their medical record, what I
Mhm.
prescribe, what tests I order. Uh, and it's knowledge of illnesses and treatments available, where I refer them to, the tests I order, and then they realize that I hold that power. Also, their medical records can defame them, uh, cause a lot of problem with them for them at job and other places. So there is the power and privilege. Also, same thing with my medical students and other students. I have power over their evaluations. I have power over their grades. I even, in front of group, it's not uncommon practice to put somebody down and it humiliate a person that they carry it forever.
Mm.
Where do I have influence? That's a very relative thing. Some of the members of my team are here, and they know they have more power than me because they shut me up many times. But they are wonderful people, and that's my influence also. I listen to them, and we work together, and some of them have been with me for more than 30 years. So my wife has been with me for more than 40 years, and I have extended family and brothers and sisters. I don't have much influence on my children. So, and lastly, where do I feel challenged, or my marginalization? I'm a foreigner, from South Asia with an accent. I'm short. I'm also a Muslim, and I let it hang out. I sympathize with very non-traditional, you know, political positions in the way of bordering on socialism, caring for very poor people,
Mhm.
but also for political causes like it's not political, it is just plain speaking out against genocide and Holocaust, people dying all over the world
Mhm.
just for US imperialism. And I openly talk about it, but my posts never get any likes or hardly any likes. So
Mm.
other than few people don't even look at it. But so seriously, I just wanted to say something about where I feel marginalized. So I have plenty to complain about, but thank God I'm happy with who I am. And
Yes.
I haven't stopped talking, so I'll yield space.
Thank you, Sohail. Yeah, thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that powerful reflection. Let's go to Toby.
Hello, everyone. I'll try to keep this somewhat brief, but I think there's a lot of power and privilege in my organization, not necessarily in my role directly, but the fact that my team, the Center for HIV and Infectious Disease Policy, is under Georgetown University means that there's a lot of name recognition, a lot of financial backing. My director used to be the AIDS czar in the Obama administration. So there's a lot of prestige that really helps us to sort of have this reputation for being thought leaders. When, if you interrogate that a little bit, as much as I really value the intellectual output that we contribute. But a lot of the work that we do would be impossible without the work of community-based organizations, practitioners, activists, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the key distillation of how privilege and power interacts with my place of work. Yet at the same time, the fact that we are often trying to speak to the perspectives and lived experiences of sexual minorities means that there's still some balking that comes from people who work in a scientific space or the government space. And there is still sort of this pervasive attitude of like, well, there's this list of behaviors that almost contribute to this culture of like sexual health purity. And we still sometimes have to fight against that in order for our work to go as far as we want it to.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that, Toby. I really appreciate that. And yeah, and what you were sharing about the prestige and how that can go far but also recognizing the people that you serve and the different organizations that you should serve as well. So yeah, amazing. Awesome. So with that, we're actually going to move into, and so with that, journaling exercises can help us reflect on our own, obviously, power, privilege, our influence, and also our marginalization all at the same time. And that will help us kind of go into our next session, which is going to be our breakout sessions, but also our case studies as well. So I want to share these case studies, and you all will go into breakout rooms of about maybe four people. It looks like we've got 44 people in the room, so maybe there's 11 rooms, or roughly 11 to 10 rooms. And I want to share with you the case studies in each group. Will either do case study 1 or case study 2, and I will have some prompts of questions that you guys can discuss, or you all can discuss in your groups, and then we'll come back out to reflect and share what you all discussed in your small groups. So with that, I'm going to share our first case study with all of you. Do I have a volunteer that wants to read our first case study to the group? Hold on one second. Let me put this into presenter mode. Any volunteers? I will share this to read our first case study.
I can read it.
Great. Thank you, Joanne.
Okay. All right. I might need to get a little close here. A large nonprofit hires David, a talented project manager who uses a wheelchair due to a spinal cord injury. During project planning, some teammates assume David will not be able to attend site visits or manage logistics. They hesitate to assign him to leadership roles, sometimes speaking over him in meetings or making decisions without his input. David feels excluded and undervalued, and the team produces less innovative work as a result.
Great. And the stigma impact of that.
Stigma impact. David's skills and potential are overlooked, affecting his morals. The organization misses collaborative opportunities and richer perspectives. Team members reinforce unconscious, ableist assumptions, harming partnership dynamics.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing and reading that. Yes, excellent. All right, do we have another volunteer for case study number 2 to read this? And then you will all go into breakout groups, and each breakout room will have number 1 or number 2 study to reflect on.
I can volunteer to read.
Awesome. Thank you.
At a community health center, outreach staff noticed that few men participate in depression screening. When Miguel, a local father, asked about mental health support, staff unintentionally make jokes about tough guys not needing therapy. Miguel decides not to return and tells friends he felt embarrassed by the reception. The center's male client participation continues to decline.
Great. And the stigma impact?
Providers, even unwittingly, reinforce stereotypes about masculinity and mental health. At-risk clients disengage from services, worsening community well-being. The program's effectiveness and reach are reduced due to lost trust and poor word of mouth.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much for reading those. Um, all right. And so with that, I'm going to put in the chat um, the questions that you will use in your breakout rooms. And we will also put in the chat the case studies as well. And we will have about, let's do about 10 minutes for the breakout rooms since we're running short on time. And yeah, so these are the questions. When you go into your breakout group, you'll have case study 1 or 2. And you'll review the case study with your group and answer these questions, whatever you can get to in the 10-minute time frame. All right. So let's see. Are we able to open up the breakout rooms? Any questions before we go into breakout rooms? Okay. All right. Well, then off we go. Maybe we can also put in the chat the different case studies as well. And and is somebody helping me on the back end with the breakout rooms?
I'm just
Man,
texting. Oh yeah,
I'm
there
in.
he is.
I'm
Okay.
in.
Thanks,
I'm assigning
Lasan.
people now.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just putting the case studies in the chat so you have that as well. All right, perhaps giving it a few more moments while Lasan puts us in breakout rooms.
What are we waiting for?
We are waiting for everyone to be moved into breakout rooms to discuss the questions and the case studies as a group. So I think our back end technical support is trying to put everybody in breakout rooms. So sorry for the pause.
How many breakout rooms?
I think there's, I don't know,
11.
maybe 11.
4 each. That's good number.
And 1 through 5 is already set, so you guys can resume.
How do we know where we are?
I think you will automatically be put in a room. I
Okay.
think Lasan is working on that right now in terms of putting everybody in a room. So thanks for your patience and grace. As mentioned, technology is not always on our side in the critical moments that we need it.
No,
So,
Lasan and team St. Elmo, they're awesome. They keep getting better every year.
yes,
But that means there are always challenges.
yes, there's always a little, sometimes little glitches in the system, but we'll get it together.
Almost there. Okay, that's everyone, it looks like. So
I think we still have a few people that are not in breakout rooms. And also, do we set the timer for 10 minutes?
it is. It's down to like 4.5 minutes now.
Oh no, yeah, because some people, we might need to bump it up a little bit just because some
Yeah.
people, it took a while for them to get into a room.
I have
So,
to wait until we close out. On the next one, we can bump it back up.
okay. Or you know what? Maybe don't have everybody come back to the room just yet. Maybe we you know what I mean? Because it can close out. Um, so I would say, okay. Lisan, I don't think Dorothy or Darren were able to get into a room.
No, we got into a room. I guess it finished or it sent me back to the main room.
Oh, okay. I don't have the back end powers. Lisan, are you able to send Dorothy into a room?
And I probably don't want, I got a lot of distractions going on behind
Oh,
me.
okay.
So,
You'll sit this one out.
yes.
Okay, no problem. Lisan, are you able to make me co-host by chance?
Did you get it? The prompt
Did I?
to
Yeah,
co.
I did see this. It does say, yeah, maybe we just leave it open for maybe 2 more minutes, so that everybody can discuss. All right, let's close out the rooms. All right, it looks like everybody will be joining us back here in just 1 second. Okay, awesome. Welcome back, everyone. I know that was fast and furious, and you probably didn't get a chance to really sink your teeth into really talking about all the questions, but would love to hear from you all about what came up for you in your groups. What case study did you decide to work on, and what came out of your group? So, would anybody like to share? Maybe one or two people from a few different groups. Would love to hear from you.
Yeah, Sean represents our group.
Oh, great.
Sean Hall Tinsley.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
I love this. I love these breakout groups. I love them. Okay, so we chose for number one, we chose group study one, and we focused on the first question, the assumptions. So, for the assumptions, as we concluded together, one, they never spoke to him. They never really came together to really speak to him. So that therefore that left a little bit of isolation for us. That you're working in a facility and these people are just overlooking you. So isolation there. They never asked about his capabilities or his decision making capabilities, nor did they take into accountability that he was able to perform his job performance. We talked about he was competent enough to get the job, and then we spoke about exploring. Nobody explored his performance ability. There was no exploration of his performance. And then we also talked about, as we were going into cultural humility, we spoke a little bit about what we would have done uh, to to address that. And we got cut off, and I was in the middle of saying, for me, I would have promoted him more. I would have, because of his disability, I would have pushed him forward more, versus leaving him out. So did I cover it, y'all?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't really get 10 minutes, Chantal.
I know, I know. I'm sorry about that because I know it took a little time to get everybody in the breakout room, so not everybody had the full solid 10. So I apologize about that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys talked a lot about good stuff and you came up with some really good insight there. So thank you, Sean, for sharing. I think those are fantastic insights. And I loved what you said in the end is that I would have, helped him become more visible to the team and having that cultural humility and maybe understanding a lot of intersectionality of, of his identities are coming at play there and being able to understand that, meet him where he is, and then be able to help him be more visible on the team. Great, excellent. Thank you for that. Anybody else and another group would like to share? I know we're getting close on time, so we just have time for maybe one more group to share. Maybe particularly a group that did case study number 2. Would love to hear from you on what you all spoke about.
We have assigned Tiffany Pearson to be our spokesperson, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Awesome. Tiffany, you're up. Thank you. I loved how you guys assigned individuals to represent the group. That's a great thing.
I
All right,
know.
Tiffany.
So, like Dr. Snell said, we chose number 2. We didn't get very far, but as far as the first question, let me go back. Sorry.
What assumptions did you notice in the scenario, and where do you think they originated?
So we don't know where Miguel is from, what his culture is, but maybe based on whatever his culture is, there were like very um, distinct lines as male and female roles. And so in his culture, maybe males are considered to be strong, like you don't need help, you don't cry, things like that. We didn't know if the staff, because it doesn't say was male or female. Maybe those comments were from a female staff. We also talked about physical characteristics. We don't know what he looked like. A lot of times we look at people and make assumptions. So he could have been a very tall, strong looking guy, and you think, in your mind, like, well, tough guys don't need help. Um, what else? And also the biases around men and help seeking. So
Yes.
that could have been an issue as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and we wondered about the Hispanic culture and the whole emphasis on machismo, that men are strong and don't cry and they're not weak. Yeah. as an example.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And again, that intersectionality of identities coming into play and recognizing the intersectionality of cultural humility and recognizing there's so many things in a person's identity that are at play. And how do I be open, be curious, and be willing to support this person and meet them where they are. So amazing. Awesome. Excellent. Oh, I wish we had more time. We could get into go a little bit deeper. But this was all really, really great. I love this. We could have a part two,
Yes.
actually. I feel like we should have a part two in
Absolutely.
all of that. So with that, let me just share my screen if you don't mind to give me feedback on this session. If you scan this QR code and you go to the bottom and say continue to the survey will pop up, and I would love
Okay.
to get your feedback on this session. So if you're able to provide me with feedback on today's session, that would be amazing before you leave today. And then I also wanted to give you some homework as well to consider, as we are about to close out here. Hold on one second, I think. Ah, here it is. This can be homework for all of you, but after this session, thinking about everything that we've done and kind of what we've been talking about, how does embracing cultural humility enable dismantling of stigmas and creating equitable relationships within teams, organizations, and communities? And describe perhaps one bridge you have built across difference. So take this journaling exercise as homework to really think about, or as you continue on in your journey and also in the conference, consider this question as you embark in different classes and courses and webinars that you'll be taking and sessions really as well. So with that, again, thank you all so much. Again, please take the survey if you can to provide your feedback and how we can make this even better. And if you could, let's just close out with one word. And feel free to type it in the chat if you'd like. But what is one word that you are to describe perhaps this session or how you are feeling today, or how you're walking out of the session? So feel free to.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful. Thank you so much for being here and for your engagement and yeah, and your work in this. So, yes, we are all, practicing and lifelong learners is at the end of the day really what it's about, and recognizing we don't know it all and that we're open to learning more. So, thank you all so much. Um, yes, we can send the homework I'm seeing in the chat. And yes, feel free to drop in your one word, but I like the words that are coming in: informative, serenity, enlightening, informative, fantabulous. I love it. Thankful, community. And the one word I would leave with is just grateful. Grateful that all of you are here. Thank you for participating. Thanks for your engagement. And also shout out to Patty and Lasan and her team for doing this and for also for having me as well. So I'm just deeply grateful. So thank you all so much and have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Chantal, thank you so much on behalf of Howard and the team. I'm deeply indebted to you for, I know there would be difference made for what the words were shared today and the practices we went through and exercises. I think they'll have a lasting impact. But this is a long journey, and for physicians and medical students, We would like a part two and part three, and hopefully I'll have Patty talk to you to come back probably in similar setting, but like give a grand round, like or a workshop for an hour or two, and we will try to invite some people too. So, God willing, we say inshallah, the journey will continue. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So grateful. Thanks a lot. Awesome. I
Thank you,
appreciate you all. Thank
everyone.
you.
See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you to Miss Patricia for getting me in. Thank you all. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Patty. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.